The conflict in Ukraine escalated dramatically following a series of bold decisions by the Trump administration. The US government announced a complete halt to intelligence sharing and military aid to Ukraine. This decision has sent shockwaves through the international community. Many are struggling to understand the rationale behind such a drastic move. Former President Trump, however, has defended his administration's actions. He argues that Putin's escalation in Ukraine is a predictable response to the current geopolitical climate. Trump believes that Putin's ultimate goal is to bring a swift end to the conflict. By escalating the offensive, Trump argues, Putin is trying to force Ukraine into a negotiated settlement. He has repeatedly stated that Putin's actions are what anybody would do in a similar situation. Trump's comments have drawn sharp criticism from both Democrats and Republicans alike. Many accuse him of appeasing a dictator and emboldening further Russian aggression. Critics point to Trump's history of favorable statements towards Putin. They argue that this latest move reflects a dangerous misunderstanding of the situation in Ukraine. Despite the backlash, Trump remains defiant. He insists that he is committed to achieving a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, he has also threatened to impose additional sanctions and tariffs on Russia. This is a perplexing stance given that he has already taken punitive measures against Ukraine, the victim of Russian aggression. The immediate consequence of the US decision has been a significant deterioration in Ukraine's battlefield capabilities. The cutoff of crucial military aid, including advanced weaponry and intelligence sharing, has left Ukrainian forces vulnerable. The most significant impact has been on the accuracy of Ukrainian drone strikes, which has decreased by 10 to 15%. Additionally, early warning systems for incoming missile attacks have been compromised. This has made it more difficult for Ukrainian forces to defend against Russian aggression, as evidenced by the recent devastating missile attacks. The situation in eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian troops are facing a combined force of Russian and North Korean soldiers, has become increasingly perilous. The North Korean contingent, known for its ruthlessness and disregard for civilian casualties, has made significant advances in the Kursk Oblast. They are pushing back Ukrainian lines and threatening to encircle Ukrainian troops. Supply routes to the front lines are under constant attack, further weakening the Ukrainian army's ability to resist the ongoing offensive. This dire situation on the ground highlights the very real consequences of the US decision to halt military support. The international response to the US decision has been swift and largely negative. European leaders in particular have expressed deep concern and disappointment over what they perceive as an abandonment of Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, a vocal critic of Putin, condemned the move as appeasement and warned of the dangers of emboldening Russian aggression. He drew parallels to historical instances of appeasement that ultimately failed to prevent conflict. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas echoed Tusk's concerns, calling for increased European military support for Ukraine. She stressed the need for the EU to step up and fill the void left by the US, both in terms of military aid and diplomatic efforts. Former UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace went even further, suggesting that the EU should begin preparing for a potential US withdrawal from NATO. This sentiment reflects a growing sense of unease among European nations about the future of the transatlantic alliance. The US decision to cut support for Ukraine has shaken the foundations of NATO. Many now question the US's commitment to its European allies. Amidst the escalating tensions and deteriorating situation on the ground, there are glimmers of hope for a diplomatic solution. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has put forward a peace plan aimed at de-escalating the conflict and paving the way for negotiations. Zelensky's proposal includes a comprehensive ceasefire, encompassing a ban on missile launches, long-range drone strikes, and the use of aerial bombs. Additionally, the plan calls for a suspension of all military activities in the Black Sea. To further these diplomatic efforts, senior US and Ukrainian officials are scheduled to meet in Saudi Arabia next week. President Zelensky will meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman before Ukrainian officials, including Andrei Yermak and Rustem Umerov, engage in discussions with US Representatives Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, and Steve Witkoff. The primary objective of these talks is to repair the strained relationship between the US and Ukraine. Both sides hope to find common ground and work towards a peaceful resolution to the conflict.